On to the big CNBC-TV18 exclusive of the day. India is growing the fastest globally, and a good monsoon would work wonders for the economy. That's the word from Finance Minister Arun Jaitley in an exclusive conversation with Malvika, Jain in New York. Jaitley showered praises on the RBI led by Raghuram, Rajan. He said that if all goes well, India could see a better interest rate regime in the near future.
The current predictions are that we'll have more than a normal monsoon.
Right.
Now, notwithstanding that, also bear in mind that we've had two bad monsoons.
Right.
And we had a 7.2% and a 7.6% growth in 2 years in spite of a bad monsoon. So if there is a better monsoon, obviously the prospects look good. India in the last 100 years has never had an earlier example of 3 bad monsoons in a row.
Right.
And the predictions, and these days they are fairly accurate, seem to indicate that we'll have a reasonably good monsoon. Now, assuming we have a moderate monsoon or a good monsoon, I'm sure we'll improve upon our growth rates. But I see no difficulty in maintaining the present one because the thrust of the kind of economic activity going on in India, public investment, foreign direct investment, increased demand, I think these are all good signs now which are visible.
Well, sir, Governor Rajan has said that while several things are working for the Indian economy, we seem to be, one-eyed king.
You see, compared to the rest of the world, we are growing much faster.
Right.
In fact, the fastest.
But
Compared to our own potential, we can do better. So at a 7.5% growth rate, any other country in the world would be celebrating.
Right.
But I think it's a tribute to India's growth story that at 7.5% we are still impatient because we know our potential is to do distinctively better. And I see as a couple of variables, if they work to our advantage, we can do much better. One, obviously you mentioned the monsoon.
Right.
Secondly, monsoon in turn will also create additional demand, particularly rural demand.
Right.
And that will have an impact on private sector balance sheets. So that's a spiral effect, which is the second effect which takes place. Third is the momentum to the reform process must continue. So if legislations like bankruptcy, legislations like GST, we are able to see through, and I think our ability to impact on investor confidence will also increase. Please bear in mind that the general body of investors world over also are looking for investment destinations.
Right.
And there aren't too many at the moment. So if you are the only economy growing at that pace, and you are able to demonstrate a potential for reforms, then obviously you have an ability to attract global investors.
So I'm going to come to the question of the legislative business in just a bit, but I wanted to ask you about Governor Rajan. How much credit would you give him for the kind of improvement or uptrend that you're seeing in the economy? And there is a question of his extension of his tenure. When he was asked,
I don't think we discuss these matters in the media or publicly. It's just not proper to make comments on this at all. I think the Reserve Bank has done fairly well in the last year and a half because it was confronted with a situation where you had a near double-digit growth. And that double-digit growth obviously led to a situation of high interest rates.
Right.
Once prices came under control, I think it was incumbent, and this was a national expectation, that the rates should go down. And if you look at over the last year and a quarter or so, the Reserve Bank has brought down the rates by about 150 odd basis points. And I'm sure if this trend of containing inflation continues, we can hope for a better interest rate regime, which in turn will have a spiral effect on improving upon India's productivity and generate more activity.
so to provide a continuity, I'm not sure if you want to answer this question, but I just want to paraphrase it. Is there a likelihood that Raghuram Rajan will...
I don't think these are areas which it's not proper to make public comments on these areas. They pertain to individuals occupying very eminent positions, and I won't do that.
Okay, no problems. And moving on to the topic of NPAs, the Supreme Court has been coming down very heavily on the regulator. They want names of defaulters to be disclosed. But of course, the RBI has made it clear that this is going to create a situation of panic.
I don't think it's a situation for panic. You see, NPAs can be created for 2 reasons.
Right.
One, there are business losses, and certain sectors of the economy get adversely impacted. Second, some loans have been improperly granted. Now, whereas any institution can look into the second category, the first category deals with policy domain.
Right.
And I think dealing with policy, whether it's the Reserve Bank or the Government of India, these are areas of executive domain. Now, how do you address the steel sector NPAs? There is no judicial process by which they can be addressed. They can only be addressed by sectoral changes or decisions which are required in relation to the steel sector, because it was adversely impacted by Chinese steel flowing into the country at below cost prices. Now, a lot of management in relation to the NPAs has to deal with banks taking effective steps in order to recover debts. Banks, Government of India, the Parliament creating a legislative framework like the bankruptcy law or amendments to the Sarfazi law, which enables and empowers the banks. And thirdly, Government of India taking policy decision along with central bank, etc., in relation to the stress sectors, so that the stress itself can be addressed.
All right, so